Hello, everybody, and welcome to Truth, Investigations, and Criminal Behavior. I'm your host, Mike Blangiforti. On today's episode, we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into truth versus evidence. Let's start with a quote from Jonathan Swift. It was from the 17th Gulliver's Travel. Why do I bring up his quote? Because I want to show that what was said 300 years ago is still relevant today. And he said, "Hood flies and the truth comes limping after it." Interesting, right? It's a reminder that these false narratives spread quickly. So we're going to take a look at why do these conspiracy theories spread and what's the motivation of some of these podcasters, hosts, in spreading these theories. Conspiracy theories travel quickly across social media. They're shared. Before you know it, they spread like wildfire. Now, if we look back at some of the history of conspiracy theories, probably the most famous one is JFK assassination, but there's also so many others. You go back to TWA Flight 800, the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, and now we have some with the attempted assassinations on Donald Trump. And most recently, which is what my last episode was about, was the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the wildfire of conspiracies that have been pushed by so many podcasters, the most notable being Candace Owens, who has 3.5 million followers, which is, you talk about spreading to so many people so quickly. She's one prime example. Now, why do podcasters do what they do? If it's not already obvious, one of the reasons that they spread conspiracy theories is they could pretty much say whatever they want, make up whatever they want without being fact-checked. You could just make something up, say that you have a confidential source, you have to protect their identity, to documents, to all sorts of stuff. And sadly, there's no burden of proof on these claims. They don't have to prove them, and they don't. But you have these bold and sensational conspiracy theories, and what do? They help to attract these clicks and shares and downloads, and they build a community of people that actually believe what they're saying all the time. So it heightens people's suspicions. What does that mean? With audience size for podcasters and beyond comes monetization, sponsorships, ad revenue, donations, all sorts of stuff. So what's it all about? Money, okay? Why do conspiracy theories sometimes spread that they're believed to be fact? People like to believe in uncertainty and government distrust. Podcasters that spread conspiracy theories themselves position themselves as being truth tellers. Don't believe what the police are telling you. Don't believe what the government's telling you. I know what's actually happening. Now, also their audiences, listen to this because it's an interesting comparison. Audiences that believe in many of these theories and false narratives feel like they belong to a group of, and they are, of like-minded individuals. They're the in crowd. They're the ones who really know the truth, not what the police are saying, not what the government is pushing. Now, what else do people in general like to do together? Smoking, drinking, gambling, drug use. Smokers I know don't like to smoke alone. People who I know that consume alcohol, and they don't make me drink alone. Gambling, you have to do with other people. And it's a common shared interest. And drug use. People like to get high with other people. Now, all of them being vices. Some people share conspiracy content not because they believe it's absolute, but because it gives some form of social value. I am educating the community. Podcasters elevate their status, their identity, and their connection to their audience. Conspiracy theorists have this seeking to shape other people's political beliefs, undermine what's official and what's the truth, and come up with these alternate narratives. They cast doubt on official institutions, the government, law enforcement, experts, even news sources. They shift, and this is dangerous, they shift public opinion in their favor. And by doing so, it can hurt an investigation. And it could also hurt the detectives, the investigators that are using actual evidence to build a case. What it does is also accuses people of doing wrong that aren't doing wrong, that have integrity and morals, and also have the burden of proof. They have the burden to prove the case. Podcasters, conspiracy theorists could say whatever they want. They don't have the burden of proof. They'll just say it and people will believe it. Now, let's remember that the audiences are also predisposed to this suspicion of everything that's going on out there, especially criminal investigations. And the host sets the alternate narrative. Another interesting fact is that conspiracy theorists are so consumed in the false narrative that they convince themselves that it's the truth. Dangerous. It's important to note that some conspiratorial content may start with plausible questions. Well, why is this? And why is that? This doesn't make sense to me. I need to know more. One of the problems is a lot of investigations are confidential. All of the information can't be released right away. And that doesn't help with preventing these theories from happening. So even though the truth is out there, they can't put it all out right away. It happens, but that fuels these conspiracy theories. So let's start by examining a few conspiracy theories that are out there, the most famous one being the JFK assassination. It's probably the most famous one in modern time. So what are some of the conspiracies that we've heard? CIA orchestrated the assassination. LBJ personally ordered it. The mafia was involved. The grassy knoll, there were multiple shooters. And of course, a secret government cover-up in the whole thing. All of these things have been disproven officially. Now, does it make for interesting stories? Does it make for the magic bullet theory that there's no way that bullet could have performed the way that it performed? I did see a documentary on the JFK assassination. I think it was on Paramount. You could check it out, with doctors that gave testimony relative to what JFK's body looked like when it arrived at the emergency room. Sometimes it's hard to separate truth from evidence. The evidence that we know was that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. The ballistic matched his rifle. The Zapruder film confirms the timing and the angles. The Warren Commission's conclusion was reinforced by these forensic reconstructions. Now, conspiracy theorists will be like, well, the Warren Commission was wrong. They were manipulated, so forth and so on. And the second gunman theory came from what became a discredited audio recording. Now, the facts in the case have stayed consistent for the past 60 years, but the conspiracy theories have multiplied like wildfire because they're so much more dramatic and to some people more believable. But that case will continue to have conspiracy theories fueled until all of the documents are released and people can see everything that the government knew and when they knew it. Problem is, even with the document release, because of distrusting government, people aren't going to believe it anyway, some of it. So it is what it is. Everybody remembers TWA Flight 800. I sure do. I live in Long Island. It happened in 1996. Major conspiracy theory versus the truth was that people believed that a missile went up and shot the plane down and that there was a government cover-up. That's pretty much the only theory. Versus the truth from the NTSB that the center fuel tank exploded, that the explosion originated inside of the plane and not outside. No missile fragments were found. No radar that they had showed any projectile. The case went on for 4 years. There were 755 witnesses, 18,000 pieces of wreckage. Now, we could argue what the truth is that the explosion to the people that witnessed what they believed to be a missile strike looked like a missile strike and an explosion. But in a night sky, the center fuel tank exploded could have also looked like something going up versus coming out. So to believe the conspiracy theory, you also have to believe that every investigator that worked on this case, and there were hundreds of them, every investigator, everybody who did interviews, everybody who examined the forensic was somehow in collaboration with each other and conspired with each other to come up with this false narrative. This is simply not true. You could probably have some type of collusion, and that happens if there's two or three people involved and say, okay, we're going to do it this is what happened, but this is what we're going to say. When you have so many people working on a case, you're not going to get all those people to say, yeah, let's forget about the missile. That didn't happen. Here's what we're going with. No. Okay, that's not what happened. The evidence is what the evidence is, and it's not going to change. And those conspiracy theories have kind of diminished over the time. Another airplane conspiracy was MH370. You remember the Malaysia Flight 370 that kind of just disappeared into thin air? What were the conspiracies around that? Because it wasn't found. It disappeared. It really did. But the area that was believed to go down in was one of the deepest parts in the Indian Ocean. But the conspiracy theories were that the U.S. military shot it down. The Russians hijacked it and it landed somewhere else. The pilot wanted to commit suicide, and the best one is aliens. Aliens took control of the plane, and now they have it. What's the evidence actually show? There were satellite pings that the aircraft flew south. There was debris that was now confirmed from the wreckage. It's there. We have it. No military radar logs support a shoot down. There was no secondary aircraft contact and no distress signals. So the evidence is scarce, and that is when imagination can take over. Truth still outweighs all these wild theories and speculation. Let's fast forward many years to these Trump assassination attempts. Political violence always sparks conspiracy, but the most recent ones being the Trump assassination attempts. The one in Butler, Pennsylvania last July, and then the more recent one at his golf course where they caught the guy. He was just convicted of the crime. The one in Butler obviously is intriguing because nothing was said about this kid. He's 21 at the time of the shooting, and nobody said anything about him, his background, his social media footprints, his cell phone history, any previous actions and things that he did. Some of it's coming out now where he had a little bit of a strange past, but it doesn't prove that he was in collusion with other people that were responsible for him being on that roof and taking a shot. The theories around there was some deep state involvement, an inside job by the Secret Service. No, these people are some of the most dedicated professional law enforcement individuals that I know. I've worked with them in the past in the NYPD. These people are straight shooters. They're very well screened and something like that. And there's no evidence. It was also believed it might have been a foreign-funded hit, that there were ties to Iran, and that the whole assassination attempt was funded by outside countries. Now, what does the evidence show? That all the attempts were carried out by lone attackers. The forensics confirm single-shot directions. Surveillance matches the shooter's movements. There was no evidence of additional shooters or government facilitation. And my analysis of how many people it would take to pull off a conspiracy theory that it was impossible for so many people to conspire with one another to pull off some type of attempt at shooting the former president of the United States. Just doesn't, there's nothing to support that. And there's nothing that leads me to believe that there was any collusion between investigators, the police department, the Secret Service, and so forth to pull off this assassination attempt in collusion with the shooter. Now, let's move on to what I touched on in my last episode, which is the Charlie Kirk assassination. Many people watched that episode, and I was actually surprised at the amount of vitriol and hatred that came out in the comments for my video. There were dozens of comments. Most of them showed a complete disregard for human life, a complete hatred of this man, and some of the memes and comments were frankly disgusting. If you want to take a look at them, most of them are on my Facebook page, Truth Investigations and Criminal Behavior. Now, I didn't take them down. Why? Two reasons. One, people are entitled to their opinions. Two, I wanted other people to see what these people were saying and try to get some sense as to why they're so angry that they would be happy about someone being killed. Politics aside, and whatever you thought about what Charlie Kirk said, what the politics and motivation was behind what he said, he was also a father of two small children and a husband and a friend to many as well. So political opinions aside, how you could advocate and be happy about somebody being shot to death and making light of it, to me, is kind of disgusting. And it's not something that I like to see. Where do the conspiracy theories around Charlie Kirk come from, and what are the claims? Right now, famously, the number one conspiracy theorist around the Charlie Kirk assassination is Candace Owens. Now, she has, I think it's 3.6 million followers, and many things that she's said, and probably soon to be all, are simply not true. They're fabricated. She should actually be a fiction writer. She'd be very good. Recently, she claimed that the French President Macron ordered the assassination, and the French intelligence was involved. When she also called Macron's wife a man. She's being sued over that. What was the other one? Israeli operative killed Charlie that was on some kill team. There's a conspiracy with the Egyptians and some plane and things like that. None of this connected, none of it proven. But again, conspiracy theorists could say whatever they want, and there's no consequences. I mean, she has 3.6 million followers that apparently either just want to follow her to see how ridiculous it is, like I did in my research, or they're actually believing what she's saying. She also believed that the U.S. government was complicit. And that Owens herself is being targeted by the French state and other entities that want to see her dead. Show us the proof of this and what leads you to believe it. She believes that there's journalists on hit lists and there's some global cabal that's orchestrated some type of public execution of Charlie. Also that Charlie predicted his murder. And then one of the most disgusting ones is that his wife somehow had something to do with it or is withholding truth about her husband's assassination. This stuff is dangerous, number one. Number two, again, Candace does not have to prove any of it. Nothing. She just says it. People believe it. It's that simple. And then with the Egyptians, I looked at some of the clips from a recent episode, and she received information from a confidential source that she's not allowed to name. She can't name to protect the identity, that said this. And so we have to believe it, right? That's not how evidence works, though. So we're supposed to just believe anything that comes out of your mouth? No, I'm sorry, I don't buy it. You could say whatever you want, show whatever documents you want, but without scrutiny, investigation, somebody interviewing her professional, there's nothing that supports any of her claims. The evidence shows that the shooter was identified as a lone domestic extremist. He wrote out a confession text message to the person he was living with, who was supposed to be some trans person he was living with. There was no evidence of foreign training. There were no foreign intelligence flags. Nothing proven about Israeli involvement, French involvement, Egyptian involvement. There's no documentation supporting Owens' high-ranking French source. Also, if you're going to come up with a conspiracy theory, pick one of these nations that had something to do with it instead of giving us 4 different nations. Maybe pick one, prove that. There's been zero corroboration from any credible outlet, news or otherwise. There's no corroboration. And who's she reporting all this evidence to? If she's reporting it to her listeners to gain more listeners and make more money. She's been proven wrong in the past. She's been sued in the past. But with Charlie Kirk, there's no corroboration. And also, her story changes frequently. So there's a lot of instability and no accuracy whatsoever. And it's not the first time that she spreads this nonsense. Let's talk about some of the debunked claims. It is a good one that the CDC was putting high-risk Americans into internment camps during COVID. It just didn't happen. The document that she was referring to, when she held it up, was about international refugee camp settings and not American citizens. So her interpretation was misleading and misrepresenting these documents, and also frightening American citizens. Why? She also claimed that she had major network deals, which didn't exist. It just never happened. She publicly referenced a multi-million-dollar TV deal to replace The View. It was satire and rumor. There were no real contracts. So when she says I have real documents, let's look at those two examples. Another dangerous one, she was linking HPV vaccines to infant infertility. Again, there's zero scientific evidence connecting the human papillomavirus vaccine with infertility. Multiple studies by scientists, doctors have proved that it's wrong, and they disproved it. But she said it anyway. Again, this is dangerous misinformation, and it has real-world health consequences. The Charlie Kirk's death and funeral, going back to this, she has not provided a single forensic document, a primary source identified, one medical report, any official witness statement. She's offered no verifiable evidence of what she's spewing. Zero. She also downplayed the Nazi medical experiments and all of the reports about Joseph Mengele, the doctor of death, what she referred to as bizarre propaganda. Historians universally reject that. The documentation of the Nazi medical atrocities is overwhelming, and it's a historical distortion on her part. She also made false claims about Kamala Harris's family history and Kamala's ancestry and timeline that you could look it up, but it was rated false by PolitiFact. So she even gets basic biological facts wrong, and she misrepresents them. She made claims about the IRS and banks monitoring all transactions. She said that new laws would allow the government to monitor every PayPal or Venmo transaction. All the fact checkers said, nope, that's false. So again, another example of exaggerating policy for what? Shock value. That's what gets her listeners, subscribers, and everything else. And like I said before about Macron's wife, she was hit with a defamation lawsuit. And this is what happens when conspiracy replaces journalism. There's a difference, or the truth and evidence take a back seat to what she's spewing. She is right now, having done some research and watching her, take a look, make up your own minds, look for yourselves and see what you see. If you take a look at some of her podcasts and some of what she's talking about, I'd love to hear back from you to see what you think. Do you think she's speaking the truth, or do you think she's unhinged? So I'm inserting a part here in the podcast. After looking at the news over the past week or so, I felt it was necessary to hold off on airing the podcast just to insert this part. And now I know I've spent a great deal of time talking about Candace Owens. Why? It's because the Charlie Kirk murder is the most recent incident that's spurred numerous conspiracy theories. And Candace Owens has been the number one conspiracy theorist in this case. Many of her followers are true believers, so to speak. So if she says it, they believe it. No actual proof required, only the proof of her word that she has it. Now, I would say that most people aren't buying what she's selling. And there are certainly people over at Turning Point USA, which Charlie Kirk founded, that are not happy with her comments. Some are downright angry with her. Check out this clip from Pastor John Amanchuko, who spoke at a recent Turning Point USA faith meeting. Go.
Contrary to what Candace Owens is saying, who's spending her time trying to tear down the legacy of Charlie Kirk, fighting against Erica Kirk, his wife. I mean, you have to be cruel and demonic to insinuate the things that she has insinuated over the past several weeks. She's evil.
So tough words on the part of Pastor John there. Now, with 3.6 million followers, what she's saying is reaching millions of people. And if she's spreading false narratives, then it's more dangerous. It's more dangerous if some controversial people are getting banned while Candace is being promoted. Check out this clip from Tim Pool's podcast.
There's an interesting conundrum in a show claiming that you'll be silenced for criticizing Israel and people are trying to kill you while having one of the top podcasts in the world for years now and making tons of money doing it. You know, I kind of just find it hard to believe that YouTube, Spotify, Apple are all like, let's prop this up. Because Nick Fuentes got banned, mind you. And she's like, remember, you can't say these things, otherwise you'll get banned. And then she's promoted massively on all these platforms.
Interesting, right? Now, if what she's saying, most, if not all, false narratives, wouldn't you ask the question, why? Why? Is it for money? Is it for attention? Is it for relevance? I don't know. But check out this clip from Adam Sosnick from the Patrick Bet-David podcast. Love him. From just a couple of days ago. Go.
This is one of the most gifted communicators out there. She's very gifted at grabbing your attention. The flip side to that may be that she's an attention-seeking, spotlight-addicted narcissist who needs your attention and gets off on all the attention.
Yeah, so again, I'm just adding some additional information on Candace Owens here that you might have find interesting. Oh, you know what I want to bring up is a Facebook post that I commented on. I've been doing a lot of research into Candace and the opinions around her supporters and some people that are more fact-based, like myself, posing opinions. And there seems to be quite the amount of intolerance on the other side of this, the people that are the true believers, the people that listen to and believe everything she says is fact. So the original Facebook post was his. I'm not going to say who wrote it, but it said this. It said, Candace Owens caused some confusion today in this post that the White House has confirmed receipt of the assassination plot against her by French President Emmanuel Macron. Her wording was confusing, but she clarified they have not confirmed the plot, just that they confirm receipt of the documents Candace sent. What does that mean? Somebody opened an email, so the White House got it. They haven't confirmed anything that she said. So here's what I wrote as a comment on the post. All I said was she missed her calling. She should have been a fiction writer. Some of the comments that came in my direction, I'm going to read you a few. I was called a French spy a few times. I was told, you, sir, are an ass. I was told to shut the fuck up. I was called scum of the earth and that I come from a world of corruption and lies when people saw that I had an NYPD background. Oh, here's a good one. I was called a Massengill douche. I'm glad at least I merited the distinction of being a popular brand of douche. Another one is I should have been swallowed, yet here you are wasting oxygen. And the other one was just listen to her fucking show and stop being ignorant. Okay, I have listened to her show and I've actually formed my own opinion, which is in opposition to yours. So I'm not ignorant. I'm just educated. It's amazing there's such wonderfully tolerant people to opposing viewpoints, name calling, swearing, and some downright nasty statements. In the responses I gave to them, there was not one single offensive or personal attack. I won't do it. I called them out on their swearing, but I also challenged some of the stuff that they wrote. But truthfully, usually if you have nothing to add to the debate, you're going to resort to those tactics. But safe to say that her followers that believe everything she says is based on Candace said it, so it must be true, right? Take a look at it. Drop what your analysis is and drop them in the comments or send me an email, truthinvestigationscbpodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to know what you think. Looking at her now over the time, and apparently she had a personal relationship with Charlie Kirk, and that relationship became different, not for the better over time. But take a look at her podcasts and let me know what you think. It's something that needs to be spoken about more. I'm a truth and evidence guy. She's a conspiracy theorist, and she's very good at what she does. And people keep sharing what she says all of the time. And so it's spread across the United States and beyond. And you really need to take a look at it. Conspiracy theories in general now, they don't just confuse people, they harm real lives and real investigations. And that's my problem with a lot of what's been coming out is the detectives, the investigators. I've worked with some of the best in the world. So for it to get back to you or hear some stuff that somehow you're involved in some conspiracy, it's a direct shot to your integrity, to your morality, and to your professional,ism. And that's disgusting. The people that I work with were objective investigators, not subjective. That's for you conspiracy people. Now, what else does it do? Families, they're re-traumatized. It's bad enough that you're dealing with the death of a loved one, not just Kirk, the TWA Flight 800, Malaysia, JFK. All of these conspiracy theories had victims, and by spreading a false narrative, the families that are connected to these incidents are re-traumatized. Innocent people are accused of doing something that they didn't do, which could affect their reputation, their livelihood. And people, if they see them or talk to them, will have some distrust of them because there's plenty of people that may believe that. Innocent people are accused without any evidence, without any burden of proof to prove that they did what conspiracy theorists are claiming that they did. But the conspiracy theorists, they don't need evidence. They just say it, and it must be true. And there's plenty of people that will believe it. It could divert investigators from actual evidence, and that's another thing. Public distrust continues to escalate. Law enforcement resources are wasted chasing some type of leads that are somehow created over what turns out to be nonsense. And the real motives of something are overshadowed by complete fantasy, by a made-up story. So, folks, investigations and getting to the truth takes patience. It takes professionalism. It takes integrity. It takes experience. It takes focus. Evidence takes work to get to the truth. Conspiracy, it takes seconds and a microphone and a platform. But only one stands up under scrutiny, and that's the truth, not the conspiracy. My show is called Truth, Investigations, and Criminal Behavior. Today we dealt with the first two, truth, investigations, but that was versus the conspiracies. Let's go with the truth and investigations. Let's go with what law enforcement professionals determine. Let's follow the evidence. Let's go where the evidence takes us. So absolutely question everything. But if you're going to look at the conspiracy theories, look at it side by side with what the actual evidence is. Remember, follow the evidence, not the noise that surrounds it. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Maybe if you make some comments or send me an email, I'll revisit the topic, addressing some of your comments, concerns, beliefs, and see what you have to say, whether it's a concurring opinion or maybe even an opposite opinion. Everybody's opinion is welcome on this podcast. I want to encourage that. So make a comment, like, follow, subscribe. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're on X. We're on Apple and Spotify. If you like the content that you see here, tell your friends, tell your family. Many more episodes to come. So everybody stay safe out there. Have a great day.